Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Thursday morning the 26th of September. Right, I'm going to keep this one as brief as possible so that maybe people will watch it, maybe people will share it, and this needs to go to the relevant people. This is so important. This is a very real possibility of what might have happened to Sebastian Rogers. So let's go. So this is helicopter footage from the 27th of February, the day after Sebastian went missing, and this is the retention pond that Max, the German Shepherd, dove into. For those not remembering that this was on the dispatch audio, this is it.
Max picked track back up, going into the construction site over here back towards the beach. Max led me straight to the retaining pond. Over behind Willow Boulevard, he dove right into the water.
So he tracked a scent all up Kellyn to the retention pond and dove right into it. And we know that several other dogs, including a couple of bloodhounds, a blue-tick coonhound, and then another dog a couple of days later, whose breed I've never been able to find, followed the same track to the pond. Okay, this is what the pond looked like close up. This is from March. This is Narked Divers, showing some footage from when he was there in March. And the retention pond had been drained by law enforcement. It had accrued a little bit more water, but what Narked Divers did, his name's Trey, he walked that pond. So we know that Sebastian is not in that pond and he's not in the mud at the bottom of the pond, because Trey was able to kind of walk it like up and down, up and down, up and down for an hour, and then any lumps that he found, he felt down with his hands. Law enforcement had already done that, so law enforcement drained it and then walked it, and then Trey from Narked Divers also walked it. We know Sebastian is not in that pond. That pond no longer exists. But this is what is so important. CJ and Narked Divers have been back to the construction site. It looks very different now. Yeah, you can say you don't like CJ, you don't like Narked Divers. I'm not interested in who likes who doesn't like who. I'm interested in the footage. All right, and so should you be. This is very important. So this is the construction site. As you can see, it's very different now. That's what the retention pond looks like now. So when he pans round, this is what I want you to see. This. I want you to see this. This thing. Alright, so that was the retention pond. You can see it's the same shape, the same place. You can see. Match it up with the helicopter footage. There's those houses, there's a retention pond. That's a lot rougher in February than it looks like now. It's all been levelled, there's a road been put in, so it's exactly the same pond. And again, I want you to watch when he pans round, and there, that thing, that's a drain. So water that runs from the site is draining into these retention ponds. That's what they're there for. They fill up with water when it rains or there's just no moisture. It gets into the drains and it will run into these retention ponds. This is CJ and Narked Divers, like dual streaming. And you can see that throughout the site, all along this road, there are these little manholes, and these are all along the road, right? We've got them in my country, you know, to take the water from the roads, feeds it into the drains. Okay, cool. Now, in February, when Sebastian went missing, this road didn't exist. The holes that fed the water into the drains did exist. They did exist. They were all over, like where the road was going to be. So they put the drainage in. Obviously, they got to put all the drainage pipes and everything in before they level it, before they put the, you know, the tarmac on for the road, and before they build more houses. The drains have got to be in. What's the problem here? Well, this is what CJ said. He's honing in on this kind of manhole here. Alright, so I'm going to play this and listen to what he says.
It just needs checked out right away. So please, if you have the availability to reach out to the local departments, please.
Those are the access points into the drains. Sometimes these covers are left off. Sometimes these covers come off. I can tell you this from my own personal experience. There's a manhole which is down the road from me. It's just grass and it's maintained by the council. And there's this manhole here. I took this picture today. This is what it looks like today. Well, some point in the recent past, I was walking along this piece of land and I've walked across it thousands, literally thousands of times, and I almost fell down a hole. This one morning, I almost fell down a hole. And the manhole had caved in. Now, I didn't even know that that manhole existed. It's from some, I don't know, past time, and the grass has grown over it. I've played on that as a kid. I've walked on it thousands and thousands of times. This land, I played on this very patch of land as a kid, and I did not know that this manhole existed. The turf had just grown over it, and it's from some long forgotten system or other. It's not that deep. I would estimate maybe 3.5 feet deep. I almost fell into it. Literally. Like one more step and I would have fallen into it. I wouldn't have hurt myself. Maybe I'd have broken my ankle. I don't know. But a kid would have fallen into it. A kid would have really seriously hurt themselves. So the reason why it caved in was because the council was resurfacing the road. They sent letters around to tell people to get the cars off the road and just move them on these certain days. So people parked on this piece of land, and obviously unknowing, the weight of a vehicle has caved this hole in. Anyway, I contacted the council. They came and fixed it, but I almost fell in. If it had been dark, I would have fallen in. Back to Sebastian, I'm not so worried about this, because even if it's dark, even if you trip on it, you'd have to be very, very, very unfortunate to fall in because of it's raised. But these little ones along the side of the road, maybe not big enough for a grown-ass man to fit in, but what about a teenager? What if, right, remember in February the road wasn't there, walking along, you're not really looking where you're going, it's dark, and you fall down. Not Divers mentioned this the other day when he was walking around here, and I thought, yeah, that's absolutely possible. Again, I'm not so worried about these kind of manholes. It's those small ones on the construction site that I'm worried about.
When I'm telling you guys about the searches on the 6th and 7th, when I'm telling you about the searches that happened on the 6th and 7th, and we're walking around the construction area, and 75% of those covers aren't on there, and anybody could have fell down in them because the elevations are all up and down.
So 6th and 7th of March he's talking about. Okay, 6th and 7th of March, just a week after this footage from the helicopter. And if we go back to the construction site, it's all bumpy, it's got debris. Somebody's just walking around at night, you know, playing around like teenagers might do. And they trip and they fall down one of the 75% of the little manholes that are not covered. Where do those drains take the water? To that retention pond. They go to these retention ponds. What if Max was so, the descent was so strong in that retention pond, Sebastian wasn't in the pond, he was in the drains somewhere. And his scent was being transported by the water that's in those drains. What if? What if? Now, look, people have mentioned drains, storm drains and things like that in the past. And I always said, I'm sure they were checked. I'm sure they were checked. I'm sure they were checked. And then we hear about the case of Caleb Harris, a big-ass man. Did he fall into the drains and ended up in some kind of pump station very, very close to his apartment? Those drains were meant to have been checked. But no, Caleb Harris's remains were there in the drains. Skeletonized. Been there ages. Probably been there since the night he disappeared. What if the same has happened here? We cannot discount it. We absolutely cannot discount it. So if you are in Sumner County, if you do have local connections, please get in touch with the relevant authority. I don't know who that is in your area. We just contact the local council here. I don't know. Is it drainage people, sewage people? Who is it? But somebody needs to contact the relevant authorities to get this looked at. And much of this construction site, as I said, has now been levelled. How would we know? How would we know if Sebastian had fallen down one of those holes that are now on the sides of the road and all covered in, all nicely concreted in? But on February 26th, they weren't. 75% of them were just holes that you could fall down. You could have broken your leg, could have broken your neck. I don't know how deep they are. But what if you were stuck? What if you'd gone into unconsciousness? What if there was enough water in there to drown? And then the scent was being, like, doing what the drains are meant to do. Move the water into the retention pond. And that's why Max was so excited that he dove right into it. Come on, guys. It could have happened. Dreadful, but it could have happened. That's a very real possibility of what might have happened to Sebastian Rogers. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.